몸이 부자연스러운 이 장애인들에게 이 눈의 움직임을 통해서 서로 의사소통을 전하고 또 거기에 다양한 취미 활동까지도 나눌 수 있는 오픈소스 기기의 기반입니다. 자, 이번에는 아이라이터 프로젝트를 성공시킨 Not Impossible 재단의 창립자 믹 에블링이 이 성공적 협력의 조건과 함께 불가능은 없다라는 내용으로 그의 철학을 이야기해 볼까 합니다. 그리고 아이라이터 프로젝트의 영감을 받아서 또 다른 오픈소스 기기를 만든 사람들이 있죠. 바로 삼성전자의 아이캔 팀입니다. 이어서 또 들어보도록 하겠습니다. 살짝 팁을 드리자면은 오늘 믹 에블링이 이 자리에서 이 Not Impossible 재단의 새로운 오픈소스 발명품을 최초로 공개한다고 합니다. 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다. 믹 에블링입니다.
I can't tell jokes, and I'm a horrible singer. So Jay came off, and I was like, dude, you can't do this to me. And like, what am I gonna, toot, 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 toot. It's got the Janet Jackson microphone and everything. It's an honor to be here. Thank you guys so much for having me out. Amazing, amazing speakers here. I'm completely inspired by everything that you guys have created. So my name is Mick Ebeling, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do for a living, and then I'm going to jump immediately into what has got me so passionate for these last 5 years. I'm a storyteller and a producer by trade. I make really pretty, beautiful visuals that go on screens. I've had a chance to work on things like The Quantum of Solace. I've worked on films like Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell, done Coke commercials, made some short films. We created a Christmas animated show that plays every year. But the story that I'm probably most passionate about, that I want to tell you about, is the story of Tempt. And this is Tempt. And Tempt has taught me about collaboration like no one ever could. And he's also taught me a lot about myself and has completely changed my life over the last 5 years. Tempt is a graffiti artist, and he was in the 80s and 90s, was probably the foremost graffiti artist in the West Coast. And one day he came home from a run and he said, "Dad, my legs are tingling." And that was the onset of ALS. And ALS is called Lou Gehrig's disease, and it's like the blob. It starts at your toes. There's a couple different ways, but it starts at your toes, and it works up your body, and it renders you completely paralyzed. So now Tempt is bedridden, and he only has the ability to grind his teeth and move his eyes. So my company, every year, we give gifts to our clients. And in 2009, we decided we're not going to give gifts to our clients. We're going to let's make a donation on someone's behalf. So we decided that we're going to make a donation on behalf of our clients to the Tempt One Foundation. So I drove out to downtown Los Angeles, and I sat down with his brother and his father, and I said, "All right, so we're going to give you some money. What are you guys going to use it for?" And before I even got the words out of my mouth, his brother said, "I just want to talk to my brother again. I just want to communicate with him." And I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, I've seen Stephen Hawking. Yes, I know he's paralyzed, but I mean, all paralyzed people have the ability to talk through that little talkie thingy that they all have, because I'm a scientist, so I say talkie thingy because that's a technical term. And he's like, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You get those things if you have money or if you have insurance, and we don't have that. And I said, well, then how do you talk to him? And he said, we have a piece of paper, and we run our hand along a piece of paper, and when we get to a letter, Tempt blinks. And then we write that down. And then we start again. And you run your hand along a piece of paper, and it gets to another letter, blink, and writes that down. So you keep writing that down until the letters form words, and words form sentences, and that's the conversation. He said it's a horrible experience because if he accidentally blinks, if we mess up, it messes the whole conversation up. And to me, I found that to be criminal, because there was a movie called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly that was made about an editor of Elle magazine, and he did the same thing. He wrote a book with the blinking of an eye. The difference was that was in 1995, and we were in 2008. 13-year difference. To me, that kind of span with all of the technological advancements, and we're still using an archaic piece of paper, it seemed ridiculous. It seemed criminal. So right then and there, I was like, listen, here's what we're going to do. Temp's going to communicate again, and Temp's going to do his art again. Those are the two promises. Those are two things I promised we're going to do. We hugged and we high-fived, and I walked out the door, and I was like, what the hell did I just say? I'm a producer. I'm a storyteller, right? I can kind of make things happen, but I have no right making any kind of technological promises. So the first thing required more producerial skills. We got on the phones and we're kind of pounding through the bureaucracies of hospitals and insurance companies, and we got him a Mytobi machine. And the Mytobi machine is a machine that he stares at a screen full of the alphabet, and when he gazes at that letter long enough, it registers those letters, form words and sentences, and then it speaks it. So you can imagine what happened when he actually started to have a communication and a conversation for the first time with his family. It was a tearful experience, to say the least. But now there's a communication going on. So the next thing was a little harder. How are we going to get him to be able to do his art again? And luckily, I was in a conference, a design conference in North Carolina, and I met these guys called GRL, Graffiti Research Labs, and one of the guys, one of the founders of it, James Powderly, actually lives in Seoul. So I met these guys, and they had created this way to actually project light on the sides of surfaces, and then with a laser pointer, they were able to register the negative space to create non-permanent graffiti. And so I came home, and I was really excited, and I sat down with my wife and said, hey, you never believe I met these guys called GRL, and they've done this thing and laser tag. And she's like, well, wait a second. If we have the Mytobi and we know that he can kind of type and talk with his eyes, and these guys are doing art with lasers, let's mesh those two together, and we can kind of solve our art problem for him. And then she said, will you pass the salad dressing? And I was like, wait, what do you mean pass the salad? That's it. That's what we need. That was kind of the nugget that we needed. And she's a filmmaker. She's not a technologist either. So that kind of launched this process. We flew all these programmers and hackers out to our house. We moved out of our house, cleared out the living room, and we bought all round-trip tickets. So we knew that we had 2.5 weeks and a lot of beer and a lot of spaghetti and a lot of pancakes to figure out something. And our kids got involved. The dog got involved. And we ended up with this. This is the EyeWriter. And the EyeWriter is really simple. I live in Venice Beach. It's a very cheap pair of sunglasses from the Venice Beach boardwalk, a wire, and a webcam. It's really that simple. And the way it works is the webcam, I'll have this around in the back. If any of you guys want to see it, you can definitely grab it. The webcam tracks the pupil. Think of the pupil as the tip of the pencil, and the blinking, engaging, and disengaging that pencil on the piece of paper. And this is what it looks like when Temp drew his name with his eye. I'll do that again. So what we realized we had here was we'd helped Temps, but we realized this is a DIY. The code we're publishing open source. It's a DIY device. This is something that could help beyond Temp. This is something that could go and help anybody regardless of their socioeconomic status, how much money they make, what country they're from. And we thought we were onto something. And little did we know. So we went to the hospital. We went into Temp's room. We set up a wireless projector, wireless signal to project down into the parking lot. We actually broke into the parking lot in a car dealership and projected light up on the wall. And we kicked his bed around, and he looked past his life support system. That's his life support system. Past his life support system, down into the parking lot where his friends and family had gathered. And he drew again for the first time in 7 years. And thank you. And I can't tell you the emotion that was in that parking lot of all of his friends. It was like, look, I'm talking. I get goosebumps just talking about it, just thinking about it. It was just so, their friend, their brother had his passion ripped away from him, and it was now given back. He was now doing his art again. And he sent this to us a week later. And this is kind of our battle cry. This is the mantra. This is our motivator in everything that I'm doing and all the work that I'm doing now around social innovation and social inventions, this is what keeps us charged. And it said that was the first time I'd drawn anything for 7 years. I feel like I had been held underwater and someone reached down and pulled my head up so I could take a breath. Thank you. So what happened next, there's no way we could ever predicted it. In fact, if we tried to predict it, if we tried to create it, there's no way we could have predicted it. All of a sudden, Temp started getting requests to have his art show around the world. We used the EyeWriter to have him do a drawing, and then we extrapolated that into a physical sculpture and had that sculpture be at the Pasadena Museum of Contemporary Art. And we didn't announce in the exhibition that it was made by a paralyzed person. It was just a piece of art, and it blew people away. It was by far the best piece in the show. I sent a team to Mumbai for the theory to create a device that could be created locally, regardless of socioeconomic status. You could create it, and we did it. We succeeded. We created the Mumbai Writer. There was all kinds of press. I got a chance to speak at TED, which I'll get to in a second. Gizmodo called us 8 incredible health inventions that transform lives. We were part of the permanent installation of the MoMA. Time Magazine had us in there. It was just and on and on and on, right? Well, then I got this email. This email on December 13th at 5:30 in the morning. I don't sleep a lot, so I get up early. And this email came in, and it said, "To whom it may concern, we're so happy to tell you that we're developing the iCan inspired by your EyeWriter. Thank you for your idea, EyeWriter. It inspires us to help people in need." And I was like, wait, it's working. This is amazing. Across the ocean, people had started to create the EyeWriter and expand upon it. They took what we created and they made it better. And they started to distribute it to other people in need. And you're going to meet that team. I just met that team last night, so I'm super excited to have them out here in a bit. But that's the team iCan from Samsung. We made a film, and I'll show you a clip of the film now. But this film was, the filmmaker was my wife, and she made the film. She documented the whole process to kind of memorialize what we went through to get there. And this is the trailer.
Temp is the ultimate graffiti artist.
He's put Los Angeles on the map.
He's always been next level.
He probably is the most versatile artist.
Temp is an innovator.
People respect him. They know who he is. He's an OG.
He's such a force.
Nobody compares with his style. He's one of the top 5 in the world. Him being laid up, I don't think about that.
When you get diagnosed with LS, it's a traumatizing experience because you're told you have only so long to live and you will spend your time completely trapped inside a body that doesn't move anymore.
I hate seeing him like that.
There's so many times where he could have just slipped away, but he's sticking it in there.
It's all about that one phone call that I almost did not pick up. Mick Ebeling was on the other end.
I had to be involved with Temp and just helping him. I had no idea how I was going to come through on what I committed to.
Our writing culture was born of making something from nothing. I laid in bed, exploding with ideas that branched out from that initial concept. That's when I knew I wasn't done yet.
Thank you. So if you'd like to see the movie in keeping in the philosophy that we abide by, the movie is available for free. You go to Getting Up the Doc, make a donation of however much you want, and you can download the film, and then a portion of those profits are going to go to supporting Temp to continue his nursing care at his hospital. So Temp taught me a lot, but I want to share with you 4 things that I learned about collaboration quickly, and then I want to tell you about some of the new things that we're up to that we're very excited about. The first thing is I learned that by nature, as human beings, we are all collaborators. We collaborate whether we know it or whether we like it or not, quite frankly. The premise of open source is reusing and recycling information and building upon it, right? Well, it made me think, what other things do we as humans, if we don't consider ourselves open sourcers, and we don't consider ourselves people that abide by that philosophy, what other things utilize that? Language. Language is an aggregation of the learning that, our ancestors and people before us have kind of built upon, right? If you're from this part of the world, that's been for centuries. If you're in my part of the world, it's been a couple hundred years. Science. Science has been built upon, you have a premise, you have a theory, you prove it, someone comes in and kicks it to the curb, disproves it, and they build something else, and it continues to grow. How many people in this room have an MBA? Raise your hand if you have an MBA. You spent 2 or 3 years and a lot of money in an open source mentality, studying companies, studying case studies of people who have come before you to figure out what works, what doesn't work, right? That's essentially what an MBA is. Then you create your own opinions, your own theories, your own inventions based on that. So by nature, we are collaborators, and our future is really based on the collaboration that we do with the past. That was the first thing. The second thing, failure promotes collaboration. We failed so many times in the creation of the EyeWriter. We broke glasses, we had the wrong code, we did all these things that just didn't work. But had we not had those failures, I wouldn't be standing in front of you today. It wasn't for our failures and shortcomings, the ICANN team wouldn't have been able to pick up the ball and take it further down the field. So in the process of collaboration, the process of invention, pray for failure, strive for failure. The global brain. This has kind of been talked a little bit. Tim talked a little bit about this earlier today, but there's a huge realization that I had in this process, which is there's 640 million plus websites. There's 30 million Wikipedia pages. Anything that we want, any information that we strive for, like that, we can have. We have access to that immediately just by going online. That's not what people before us had. So you take that immediate access of information plus the immediate access through Facebook, through Skype, to be able to congregate and meet people. We're partaking in the global brain that we collaborate with every single day with people that we'll never meet. So we are this global community of information that's continuing to grow and prosper in whatever path we're going down. And the last thing is something that I'm absolutely infatuated with, is this theory of impossible and the fallacy of the impossible. So much so that I started a foundation called the Not Impossible Foundation. And the Not Impossible Foundation is about taking creativity and technology and melding it together for the sake of humanity. We strive to create inventions for people with needs. Open source, DIY, that's our premise. If anybody in this room believes in impossible or believes that something is impossible, you're underestimating humanity. And this is what I'd ask you all to do. Right now, just look around where you're at right now. Look down. Look at the things that surround you within 2 feet. Every single one of those things that surround you were impossible at one point. Every single thing. That easy stuff is phones and cameras and projectors, architecture, cut wood. Now go a step further. Mass-produced clothing. Let's go one step further. Walking upright, right? Everything was impossible at one point. So to think that anything you're struggling with right now, whatever challenge you're in front of, that it's impossible, it's not able to do it, that it's impossible now, it underestimates all of humanity. So what's next? What's next is the next step for tempt. ALS is a disease of deterioration. So now tempt is not able to blink. If you can't blink, you can't engage the mouse. So we had to figure out a way to get around that. Javid is one of our lead programmers, and he introduced me to this device called the Emotive, which is an EEG device. Registers the brain waves and the electric impulses that your brain gives off. We got together, we took that, matched it with the ICANN, not the EyeWriter, because the ICANN had approved upon the EyeWriter, and the ICANN was a better device. And we created this, the BrainWriter. And this is Javid, so you can see how this works, but it's pretty basic. Your eyes are controlling the mouse and where the mouse goes, and instead of blinking to engage and disengage, he now just thinks. So we've gone from blink to think. And we didn't invent any of it. We just took the technology that existed, melded it together, and made it accomplish something that we needed it to have happen for Tempt. This is one of my favorite slides because I come from a design side, and it's everything that I try to create is refined and beautiful. This is straight out of Microsoft Excel. It doesn't get any uglier than this. But it's an amazing slide because what we learned from this process was in the failure that we ran into with the EyeWriter and the creation of the BrainWriter, not only did we kind of navigate an obstacle that came in front of us, but we reduced the amount of time that it takes to create an action by over 30%. When you use the EyeWriter, it takes this amount of time. When you use the BrainWriter in our first test, it took this amount of time. That was an accidental discovery, and something that level of efficiency is something that we hope to translate into some of the other things that we're doing. So how? This is a question that I'm asked every single time I talk about Tempt, I talk about the EyeWriter. The how is this. How can people get involved? How can we continue to do these things? And what else is on the horizon? And I'm very, very excited to tell you guys that today is the first day anybody has ever seen this logo. It's the first day anybody's ever heard of this new venture. We decided to make the formal announcement and launch. I don't even think the Seoul Digital Forum people know this. This is the first announcement of the Not Impossible Labs. And the Not Impossible Labs, thanks. The Not Impossible Labs is based on this manifesto, which is, we are all makers, engineers, artists, thinkers, family, and friends. We are radical collaborators dedicated to creating low-cost DIY open source solutions for real people with real needs. We give away what we do because changing one life can change many lives. We make things not impossible, and now you can too. And this is what this is. It's very simple. There's two doors to enter. I have a cause, and I want to make something. And you can come in through either of those doors. You can come in through one, or you can come in through both. And if you're a maker, you come in and you register. You find a project. Now, the registration process is you put your skills. Am I a nanotechnologist? Am I an electrical engineer? Do I like to tinker? What do I do? Did you qualify yourself? Then you find a project that is attractive to you or that you have some kind of resonance with. Since today we're just launching for the first time, in the future what we want this to be is similar to a dating site, where the site is going to learn what you like, what your tendencies are, based on your geography, based on your skills, based on your affinities, and we'll match you with projects that could utilize someone like you if you're a maker. You join the team, you solve problems, you change someone's life, you have a beer, and then you repeat. If you have a cause, you come in. My brother is paralyzed. He has ALS. I want him to communicate again. I want him to draw again. You post your cause. That cause goes out. You meet the team. You cheer them on. You give them information as they give you feedback. You use their device, and then you spread the word. We want to replicate what we learned from the EyeWriter process. The difference is this. The EyeWriter process for me was very personal. I had a relationship with Tempt, and I had a relationship with his father and brother because I'm a father and I'm a brother, and I couldn't fathom not being able to talk to my sons or not being able to talk to my brother. So I wanted to make that change. There's other things that we're working on that I can talk about, but what we know is that everybody here and everybody who comes into the Not Impossible Labs might have a skill or might have a personal connection to something that they absolutely think needs to be changed, an invention that can help someone else's life. That's what we're counting on, those personal reactions and personal connections to things that people feel that absolutely have to be made. The EyeWriter and the iCan was the first step for us. The BrainWriter and the laser cane, which is something I can talk about later, is the next step. But what has me the most excited is the future, because I don't know what's going to happen now. I don't know the types of inventions that need to be created. I don't know the people who have that personal connection and wake up and say, I have to change something. So I would invite everybody today, right now, later tonight, at some point, go on to Not Impossible Labs. Please register. If you have a gift, we created this so that you don't have to be a genius. I'm certainly not. I didn't have any skills being a computer programmer or anything like that. I just had a desire to help. Register, And then over the course of the next months, as we build this community, as we build this population, we'll be able to start to see the types of things that we can change as a community. We are the global brain, and we have the potential to change the world in front of us. Thank you guys very much.